Welcome to another edition of No Pulp, and we're talking about the SEC. Plenty going on, plenty of shakeup, and college football playoff outlook. There's a lot to talk about there as well.
And also some more firings that's become a trend this season. We're going to delve into that and give our thoughts.
We've also got Dan Shalam in the juicer challenging this guy, Sam Reis. It's all coming up on No Pulp. You won't want to miss it.
The best performance, I think, all year from Ohio State against Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
They just don't lose at the shoe. She's the best player in women's college basketball in my eyes.
To stay alive, can they hook 'em? Touchdown!
They have the most prolific goal scorer of all time.
He will fire.
He's the guy.
I'm the guy.
Ian's the guy today.
Experience is what matters when it comes to Omaha.
Valuable.
You know the number is everything for a team.
First time, how are we feeling, Jake?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
Welcome in to our CitrusTV studios for another edition of No Pulp. Luke Burgess and Sam Reis here with you, talking some college ball. And we start very quickly, Sam, into the SEC because that's where everything is happening right now. Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia takes it 43-35 in an offensive shootout that ended up being decided entirely by defense because Georgia's defense in the fourth quarter was absolutely phenomenal and the reason that they scratch and claw their way to another win.
It was, and it was funny how this game played out because it was until the fourth quarter that finally the Georgia defense stepped up. In fact, neither team had a punt in this game until the final 15 minutes.
And Georgia never had one.
Yeah, exactly. Georgia never had one. If you love offense, this was the game for you. And you're right. Ole Miss was leading this game by 9 points heading into the final 15 minutes. And then the Bulldogs finally said, all right, we need to clamp down, forced a 3-and-out, outscores Ole Miss 17-0 in the final frame, and you really expect nothing less from Georgia. They take care of business. How about over 500 total yards of offense? Gunnar Stockton is that guy.
Yeah, he is.
He was brilliant. He had an oblique injury last week against Auburn. Kirby Smart told him not to run the ball. He did it 10 times. I love the way he plays.
Yeah, and on the other side, Trinidad Chambliss. He's a crazy story because the guy, of course, transferred from the D2 level, was not supposed to be the starter for this game or for the whole season, really, and now he's really settled in. And although, yeah, the numbers are not great for this game, 19 of 36 passing the football, but I think you have to give him a lot of credit for what he did for the majority of this game, even though down the stretch he kind of falls short. In one sense, you say Ole Miss is a top 10 team. They need to compete in this game.
Their defense had to step up for Trinidad in the offense.
Right, absolutely. There had to be a spot here at some point where Ole Miss finally came over the hump, stopped Gunnar Stockton.
You can't allow 43 points to a team as talented as Georgia that is capable of that. And, for Ole Miss, finally that first loss of the season. I'll tell you what, the SEC is so loaded. Look how many one-loss teams there are in addition to the two undefeateds in A&M and Bama.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting conference. This is where college football is happening on a week-by-week basis. And somehow Kirby Smart, once again, he can't get both of those units to start on time. He finally starts to get the offense rolling in the way that he wants to, and now it's the defense that he can't get going. And they kind of, like I said at the beginning, scratch and claw their way, finally get things rolling in the final moments.
But those are two teams in Georgia and Ole Miss that are very much still alive for that SEC title and making a run in the college football playoff. That was an instant classic on Saturday. Now, the day before that, the slate got started with a massive upset over in the ACC, which is a crazy conference in itself because who knows what to expect. Louisville taking down Miami down in South Florida. I don't think many saw this one coming, Luke.
Yeah, no, a crazy finish, 24-21. Louisville comes out on top. And the story in this game, Sam, is just entirely Carson Beck being absolutely atrocious. His Heisman odds have walked out of the door.
Yeah,
no touchdowns.
They should have never been high.
4 interceptions. My goodness. What a letdown for Mario Cristobal's squad, bringing in a guy from Georgia who had a really tough end to last season. And I think very quickly with a win over Notre Dame in week 1, people forgot about that.
Right.
I mean, there was a week. There were actually 2 straight weeks where Carson Beck was the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. And
yeah,
I mean, you can see there at the top of the screen. Plus 350 to plus 6,000, that's essentially impossible at this point. And Beck just not very calm under pressure whatsoever. And he's got arguably one of the best offensive lines in the country and could not make the plays at any point in this game. Louisville honestly didn't even play that good to win this game.
Right, and you do have to give credit to Louisville. You know, the defense stepped up to force those mistakes.
I guess I should say Louisville's offense.
Yeah, Louisville's offense was decent. I mean, Chris Bell, not the former basketball player at Syracuse, had a great game. 9 catches for 136 yards, so he was a great deep ball threat throughout the night for the Cardinals. And credit to them, you know, they did enough. And for Miami, it's really deja vu. And just like last year, they started undefeated for a while. We're playing great. You know, this year up to number 2 in the country, undefeated until this weekend, and then you lose to an unranked Cardinals team. That can't happen. And now I really think you have to say Georgia Tech favorite in this conference.
No doubt.
I think they have to leap Miami at this point. Now, the Yellow Jackets haven't impressed me, you know, to a great level. I think, you know, they haven't played many tough opponents, but they're still undefeated right now. Miami showed that, you know, they have flaws.
But the question is, are there any tough opponents in the ACC right now? Because I think everyone looks at those standings and says, what the hell is going on in the Atlantic Coast Conference? I mean, aside from the fact that you've got 2 teams on the West Coast in there, you've also got just a ton of shakeup and not what anyone expected. I mean, the preseason favorite, Clemson, is buried at the bottom right now. Over in the Big 12, Texas Tech and Arizona State, a massive shakeup here as well. And we talked a lot about the SEC top 10. Texas Tech now no longer undefeated. They go from top 10 in the country, Sam, with a 26-22 loss. They are now not even in control of their own destiny.
No. And it's funny because as we jump from conference to conference, I think this result really is a great example of just how much parity there is across college football. I think it's undeniable that Ohio State is still the odds-on favorite to win the national championship, but outside of them, like, it's very interesting, and this game was a great example of that.
Challenge them. What, in my eyes. I know that's a little bit besides the point.
Yeah, sorry for getting off topic there. Ohio State is Ohio State. But with this game in particular, the Big 12 is a little wonky because I still don't fully trust Arizona State. I think we could all agree that Texas Tech probably wasn't as good as 7 in the country. They were there because they're still undefeated, similar to Georgia Tech right now. But, you know, after, let's face it, the Sun Devils got obliterated by Utah. That wasn't even close, 42-10.
Well, they were playing a backup quarterback.
Sure, but still, you can't get embarrassed like that.
Sam Leavitt back with the team makes a big difference.
And Leavitt was great in this game. I'm not going to lie, though. I still don't really trust either of these teams. I could see Arizona State losing to Houston this weekend.
Absolutely. And really the reality in this game, once again, it's a similar refrain from what we just talked about with that SEC Georgia-Ole Miss game. It was just Texas Tech could not stop Arizona State on offense in the second half.
Yeah, and Leavitt deserves a lot of credit. He comes back in and really does his thing. They basically exclusively threw the ball, which is funny to see Arizona State do that after Scadaboo is such a beast on the ground last year. It's a pass-heavy Sun Devils offense, and it was enough to beat a pretty good Red Raiders team.
And the entirety of the Big 12 now looks really shaken up. BYU really controls this conference at the moment. And Cincinnati goes into Stillwater, beats Oklahoma State. They continue to be on the rise. And like you said, Houston's unranked, and they're 3-1 in conference.
They were like 4-8 last year.
I almost want to say, what the hell more looking at this than the ACC, because this conference is it's kind of always the Wild West to some degree, but it certainly is this year. And yeah, if you got my money right now on who was going to win this conference, I would have no idea where to put it.
I give me BYU. I like BYU, and I'll get into more of that later. We've been jumping around to both the ACC and the Big 12, but when all is said and done, everything always circles back to the SEC, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, in prime time, Alabama took care of business against Tennessee pretty comfortably when all was said and done. A 17-point win. This Crimson Tide team is legit. They further proved that this weekend, Luke. And I still can't get my mind around how they lost to Florida State in the opener. But hey, they're undefeated since then, and they're taking care of business in getting quality SEC wins.
You know, I almost want to say that Kalen DeBoer took that loss personally. And I know that's not a hot take by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, the Alabama season ticket holders that I know, which there are actually several, were furious after that first game. Fire DeBoer. I mean, that was really the refrain that was being echoed throughout the Crimson Tide vernacular, I guess you could say. And since then, they have gone on to look like one of the toughest teams in football. And if you ask me, probably the only team that could legitimately challenge Ohio State with their talent.
I think that's fair.
And what they've showcased on a week-by-week basis. Like we said earlier, I mean, they beat Georgia, they beat Kirby Smart, Alabama, and whether it's Saban or it's DeBoer,
they beat Vandy and Missouri, who could have been in contention to pull off upsets there. That's 4 ranked wins, 4, and we still have a good amount of the season left.
We absolutely cannot forget to talk about Ty Simpson either, who all of a sudden has kind of elevated himself into Heisman talk. Is that partially due to the fact that pretty much everyone who's been at the top of the Heisman odds has somehow shot themselves in the foot?
Sure.
Maybe a little bit, but Simpson is really good. And in his first year as Alabama's quarterback, I mean, look at the numbers on the bottom of your screen. Just 1 interception. Right. That is fantastic stuff for a guy who has all the pressure on the world in him. You could argue he is facing more pressure right now than any of the Alabama teams faced over the last 2 seasons at any point. Just because of what happened in week 1, losing to Florida State, that only continues to look worse. But he is a phenomenal football player.
He is. And I will also say this game also proved to me that Tennessee is definitely not a contender to even make the college football playoff. They're just not good enough this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. And Xavier Brown, you see as well there, the 99-yard pick six at the end of the first half.
Chance to make it a 2-point game. Instead, 16 points. That's a 14-point swing.
And Joey Aguilar, who has been really good this year, but a little bit interception prone, especially in the big games. He threw 3 picks against Georgia. Kind of comes back to haunt him once again. And he's throwing the ball 44 times in the game. So you're bound to have some of those missteps. It unfortunately really just came at the worst possible time. We've got juicer action coming up on the other side of a short break. Dan Shalam is in studio to challenge Sam Reis, who's excited. He's rubbing his hands. No Pulp rolls on in a second. We're back here at the wall. Juicer time, Sam Reis, and now we welcome in Dan Shalam as well. Sam's forgot his platforms, unfortunately, tonight, so he's got a little bit of a height disadvantage, but I don't think he's going to have any disadvantage.
Come on, look at how much taller I am than you
in the arguments. Let's make sure we're both staying on level ground.
Nonsense. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna settle this thing down before it gets too crazy before we get started, because we've got a lot of exciting college football talk outside of just your regular jabbering. And we'll start with the most surprising game this past weekend. Dan, I'll go to you first.
It's got to be Louisville and Miami. I don't think anybody saw this one coming. This is a Miami team that won 10 games in a row at home. Louisville comes in and absolutely exposes them. This is going to be a problem for Miami all season long. The scheme that Louisville cooked up was just absurd. Forced Carson Beck to throw 4 interceptions. Jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And you want to talk about surprising. This was a Louisville team that ran a fake field goal in this game. Had 3 different players under center. Even ran a reverse on its first drive. Louisville, coming into this game, had never won against a top 10 team in a true road game. 0-18. Also just the second time ever that they've beaten a second-ranked team.
Yeah, those stats are great. And I'll admit, that was a surprise. It was. Louisville beating Miami, definitely a surprise. The question was most surprising, and there was a result that was even more surprising than that, without a doubt.
You love to clarify the
UAB beating Memphis. 23.5-point underdogs were the Blazers, and they go in there and beat undefeated and a ranked team in Memphis. By the way, 6 days before this, they fired their coach. Interim head coach Alex Mortensen took over the reins, and they had a new starting quarterback, Ryder Burton, who didn't even play in his last 2 seasons at BYU in West Virginia. His first career start, he goes out there, throws for 3 touchdowns, over 250 yards. This was unbelievable. UAB was 2-4 heading into the day. This is an absolute shocker. No doubt, most surprising result.
Sam, that was an undefeated team, but Louisville beat an undefeated second rank in the nation team.
UAB was a much bigger underdog. This was the second biggest upset of the college season.
Although you were down in your offensive lineman stance, you look fantastic, by the way. I feel like you could have blocked a 6'4" linebacker coming at you while you were arguing that point. I see your passion, and your passion is going to win you a point. That is not only because of your passion, it's because UAB was an under 500 team going into a game against a ranked team. That was really impressive. So Sam is up 1-0 after our first round. We move on to our best freshman performance this past week. Dan, I'll start with you.
It's got to be Bryce Underwood from Michigan here. This was a Wolverines team that had the backs up against the wall coming into this game after that loss against USC. And Bryce Underwood goes out there and puts on his best performance of the year. 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. The completion percentage was his best of his entire career at 78%. And I don't think people understand the magnitude of this game. Michigan is out of the college football playoff if Bryce Underwood does not step up. His progression throughout the season finally got Michigan its win, and they are still alive for the college football playoff.
Newsflash, Washington's not that good.
Newsflash, they would have been out of the college football playoff if they didn't win.
I don't care. The best performance by a freshman this weekend was undoubtedly the guy with a pretty darn cool name too, Bear Bachmeier, who won the Holy War. This dude is a true freshman, and he went out there and absolutely balled out. By the way, underrated, one of the most elite rivalries you'll find in college football, and he put his body on the line. He ran over 10 times. Again, this kid's a freshman, beats a really good Utah team, and look at that. He hurdles a man. And 4th week in a row, I found out a few hours ago, Big 12 Freshman of the Week. 4th week in a row he's done that. 5th time overall. He's the best freshman in the conference. He's one of the best freshmen in the entire country, and he performed on the big stage. Bear, you were the most impressive freshman this weekend.
I just want to clarify, after the whistle arguing, from now on, we'll lose you points and sway my argument to the other person without reason. It is going to go to Dan here, though, simply because Bachmeier did not throw the football enough. Under 100 passing yards,
they beat Utah. That's a more challenging game than beating Washington.
Unfortunately, it's not about the team. It's about the guy who was doing
Big 12
the
Freshman
work.
of the Week. 4th straight time.
It's already been decided. This is only going to hurt you in the long run. 2-1. Dan takes the lead as we head into our potential final question. The most overrated player this past week.
No, it's the most overrated.
I apologize.
You're skewing the question.
Most overrated player in college football at the moment. That's
there
on
we go.
me.
Easily Arch Manning. I mean, I've heard enough about this guy. He's still getting hyped up somehow. Even the last few weeks, I hear people telling me, "Oh, you should still, remain faithful in this guy." Texas continues to back him up. The guy is terrible. In fact, I'd take Steve Angeli over Arch Manning at this rate. I absolutely would. This past weekend, he was atrocious. They barely beat a terrible Kentucky team, and he went 12 for 27 for a guy that was hyped up as much as him. People saying, "Oh, he's going to be, the #1 pick, the next big thing, the best quarterback in college football."
Right,
he's been atrocious.
Can I just say that Arch Manning's just been straight bad this season, so I don't think there's any argument for him to be overrated.
No,
he had 300 yards against Sam Houston State every other game, a pick or under 200 yards. So then let's go over to my guy, Carson Beck, who actually started the season good, but is now extremely overrated after that 4-interception performance against Louisville. The QBR has been going down the past 3 weeks for Carson Beck. He started out great in that Florida game. He only had 160 yards, no touchdowns. Louisville exposed him. And when a team does that, other teams are going to take notice. Miami is in trouble for the rest of the year. They shut down the run, forced Carson Beck to pass, schemed him perfectly. Miami's going to have no chance the rest of the year with Carson Beck. He is trending down,
He's
and
been
the
rated
Hurricanes
properly.
are
This is
in
a guy
trouble.
who couldn't play at Georgia.
All right,
who had to leave
listen.
Georgia.
If the question was asked the way that I asked it, actually, then I think Dan would win. Unfortunately, Sam, you are going to win the 3 points and therefore win the juicer.
You just said I was right.
Easy
one
money.
reason in particular, I've known about Arch Manning's name for 3 seasons.
Right.
This is the
You've known
first
about
year. He's
Carson
played
Beck
fewer
forever.
than 10 games.
And
Carson Beck,
he's
on the other
properly
hand, has
rated.
not
He can't
played.
perform
He's been
at
a
Georgia.
starter for
What?
years. Let's look at the juicer standings
Let's
here.
go.
You guys won't stop arguing.
This is
unbelievable. Sam
+2.
Reis moves up inside the top 5. He's got some real good company up there as well. We've got more coming up on No Pulp. We'll talk about some fired coaches, where they're going to end up, and I'm going to recollect my thoughts here as I try and recover from the concussion I have from hearing these two talk.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
There was never a doubt, was there? Your juicer winner here, Sam Reis, alongside great moderator in Luke Burgess, Dan Shalam.
2 out of 3 questions.
Yeah,
just
we'll
like you. Actually, we have the same record.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we're back here on No Pulp. I've calmed down a little bit, but there's reason to get animated again because a big point of contention has been the amount of coaches fired so far this season. 2 more added to that list recently. Last weekend, after Penn State again was on the wrong end of a big upset, falling to Northwestern. James Franklin was fired, and then this past weekend, he came on College Game Day on ESPN, and Nick Saban gave his thoughts on that firing.
Like up to you to decide what's fair or unfair when Reis answered that question? I'm going to answer it. It's unfair as hell for you to go to the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, get into the Final Four, come out being ranked #1 this year, an expectation that you created by what you accomplished at Penn State. And for those people not to show enough appreciation for that and gratitude for all the hard work that you did, I'm saying it's unfair.
Oh, boo-hoo, a bunch of millionaires saying what's unfair and what's fair. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
I mean, this was completely warranted firing. If you're making this much money and you set the expectations that high for yourself, you have to do better than losing to UCLA and Northwestern. This was completely justified. That's the business of being a coach at a premier college football program. Give me a break, Nick Saban.
Do I think it's unfair? No, I don't think it's unfair, but I do think that Franklin definitely deserves some credit for where he got Penn State to. You have to consider where this program was
and
at
I'm
the
not
time
saying
when
that.
he took over,
Yes.
and what he was able to do there. So in that sense, it is a little bit unfair because you have one bad season and all of a sudden you lose your job.
Yeah, but he
And
could-
look,
he could never win the big game.
I
He could
understand
never
that
win the
Drew
big game.
Aller is out for the season,
This was the
but
tipping
Penn State
point.
goes on and loses this week as well to Iowa. So like, really, is
yeah,
it
that's-
that much better with Franklin God? Why not leave him to the end of the season in my eyes?
Well, no, that's
Are
worse
there
for him.
serious
That's worse for
issues with what he did there, especially in those big games? Absolutely. But I certainly don't think that this came at the right time, personally.
I do. I think if you leave Franklin there the rest of the year, then without Aller, it's even worse for him. It looks even worse.
Another firing in the SEC, this one much more recent. Billy Napier out at Florida after a really tragic start to the season for him. The Gators are in disarray right now. DJ Lagway has been one of the worst quarterbacks in Power 4.
Not as bad as Arch.
They are looking for a replacement as well.
Yeah, and this isn't surprising to me. Now, the timing with this was a little more weird because they just beat Mississippi State. And
right,
he was still getting
supposed to be
booed.
a good team.
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State isn't that good. But the reality is Billy Napier just couldn't get it done. You see his record against just FBS opponents, never mind the conference. I mean, look at that. Against Power 4 teams, he had a 30% winning percentage. He had enough time to kind of settle in and see if he could turn things around, but he had a losing record more than anything. And at this point, you had to pull the plug. Nothing was changing. This team, it hasn't been going in the right direction.
Particularly on the offensive side, and Florida, I think, a team that you expect to produce offensively in the SEC, and they really did not this year. And I mean, I know I mentioned it earlier, but DJ Lagway, my goodness, that really blew up in his face this year.
Yeah, it did. And it's unfortunate. Like, the Gators should be a team, located in Florida. They got a lot of money. They have the talent. They got to put it together. They got to be more competitive in the SEC. They really do.
And I will harken back to the point as well. I mentioned how Penn State had the expectation to be very good this year. Florida was ranked inside the top 15 preseason as well. So I think there was an expectation that he had to take them to the next level a little bit this year, and they certainly had the talent. A disappointing year for him, and now he's gone.
He's gone, and that means there has to be replacements at some point for both of these teams. So let's start with Penn State, the Nittany Lions. Who do you think should be the next coach of Penn State?
I go to the SEC and talk about Mike Elko and what he has done there. Obviously, that's an Aggies team that you expect to be much stronger defensively than offensively, and I think that's really the brand that Penn State needs to continue with. He had this to say when he was asked about the rumors surrounding the job.
I think it's absolutely hilarious how you guys cover coaches. I think 3 weeks ago I was getting fired. Now I'm getting hired. Now you don't want me to stay, but I'm leaving. Like, it's absolutely hilarious. It is a waste of brain space to spend any time talking or thinking about any of that stupidity.
A waste of brain space, so it sounds like, according to him, what happens, happens, and he's fine with whatever happens. There's nothing else to say.
I think ultimately, he's building something great at A&M. They're having a great season. I think ultimately...
Top 5 team.
Yeah, he will stay there, but I agree that he would be a great fit for Penn State. I just don't know how realistic that is. And I find that answer funny because it's like, the media is always going to ask these type of questions. So I respect his answer, and he's obviously locked in on the Aggies at this point. But, could that possibility be open for him? I think it could be. Now, in terms of my pick for who I think should be that next man, and, it's one of the more realistic choices, in my opinion, that I'm going with, and that's Matt Rule. I think it all makes sense for him to head to Penn State. He's done a solid job at Nebraska. I know they just had a disappointing loss, in Big Ten play this past weekend. But this is a guy who has plenty of coaching experience, whether that's collegiately in the NFL, and he played at Penn State.
He's also got a great relationship with Pat Kraft, the athletic director at Penn State. So he almost got borderline emotional when they asked him about what it would be like to go there. So, I don't know if as a Cornhuskers fan you're super happy to see that or not. But
I agree, and that's why I think not only is this realistic, but it would be a good fit because obviously a lot of people would want this job. But with Rule in particular, who played there, has a good relationship with the AD. He's a Northeast guy. I think that's like the perfect spot for him, and he could have success there.
My only point is, yes, Nebraska's been in and out of the top 25 this year towards the bottom end of the AP rankings, but Matt Rule was with the Carolina Panthers before he was with Nebraska. I don't really think that there's been anywhere in recent memory where he's gone in and necessarily rejuvenized the program.
Yeah, he has enough experience.
The bar for Penn State is to be top 5.
Yeah,
at this
it's a
rate.
fair point.
I don't know that Matt Rule necessarily has top 5 pedigree despite his relationships and whatnot.
That's a fair point. And, as we shift from Penn State over to Florida, I'll go right in with my pick for this because it's ambitious, yes, but I think it would make total sense. Lane Kiffin to the Gators. Wouldn't that be awesome? There he is, Mr. Frat Guy himself. But he's built a great thing at Ole Miss. That is the one concern I have. Where how willing would he be to leave Ole Miss?
I don't know if I see the incentive.
I think it's a possibility. I do because Florida has enough money where he's an offensive-minded coach, right? And he's built something great with Ole Miss.
Development with quarterbacks specifically, seeing what Jackson Dart has done.
I think he can do a great job there
in the NFL.
There's enough money there to bring in talent, and I think that could be attractive for him. I know he has a great thing going at Ole Miss. He also has former experience recruiting in the state of Florida when he was at FAU. People forget he had some success there before he eventually went to Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin would be a great fit for Florida. Would he go there with what he's got going at Ole Miss? I'm not sure. Florida should try to make that happen.
And my point is he feels like a guy with a little bit of unfinished business at Ole Miss, kind of like you're saying. And the guy I'm picking for the job, absolutely no unfinished business. In fact, he might be having revenge on his mind. I think James Franklin, why not? Make the jump from the Big Ten to the SEC.
Dude, but why
I'd
would
say
Florida
arguably
want
it's a
him?
downgrade. And look at what, I'll tell you exactly
He
why.
can't
Look
win.
at what James Franklin did.
You're going to lose more.
Developing that program. It goes back to exactly what we were talking about earlier on. He brought Penn State from the lowest point in program history all the way to the Final Four last year. They were one win away from being in the national championship game, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Is the big game thing a concern? Yes, but sometimes, what do you say when a player can't have success in one location? Send them somewhere else, and especially in pro sports. See what they might do somewhere else in a new scenery. I think maybe that's exactly what James Franklin needs. Send him down south to Gainesville. See if he has the ability to take that program over, get it going in the right direction again. I think Florida's in a much better place than Penn State was when he took that job. And look at his record there. Yes, some big-time losses.
Looks like a better comparison there
they have
for Kiffin.
I mean, those numbers are almost identical. I know you're not
Look
very
at
good
his
at
top
math,
10
but if
record
you
for
multiply
James
6
Franklin.
by 2, it
He
equals
can't win the
12.
big game.
And if you
I'm
multiply
not
50
doing
by
that.
2,
I'm not
it
doing
equals
that.
100. So really, the records
on
are
earth are you
quite
doing?
similar. The winning percentage for Kiffin just a tad better.
No,
not too much.
Top 10. That's the only thing that matters. You can't do it. All right, well, we've talked about the coaching carousel here. It'll be fascinating to see who these replacements are for both Penn State and A&M. Not Penn State and A&M. Penn State and Florida, I should say. Mike Elko could be on the way there, according to Luke. But after the break, we're going to talk about the real football. We're going on the pitch, talking with Nick Waley. U.S. Soccer has some big plans about some potential changes. Stick around.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're back from our CitrusTV studios, and we are talking soccer, as they say, on this side of the pond. And that is especially relevant to what we are talking about in the soccer world. Luke Burgess, Sam Reis, and now joined by Nick Waley, our resident soccer expert of sorts. Of course, he's got the accent to back it up as well. And we've got Sam Reis with his high heels on now, so he is ready to dance
I'm
on
ready for
the
the header.
pitch. And guys, we'll start by just a basic rundown of what exactly this is, because U.S. Soccer, they've proposed essentially a new format for what college soccer would look like. That is going to it's likely not going to go through, but if it were to go through, it would completely change the landscape of what college soccer looks like right now.
It could even change the whole landscape of college athletics. There's a couple headlines here. So there's basically this next generation college soccer committee that's made up of about 18 people from all across U.S. soccer, both men's and women's sides of the sport. The first one here is that they're going to try and extend the season. We're going to go, instead of it being just 4 months, go from August to December. Instead, it's going to go from August to May like they do across the pond.
With a bit of a winter break.
Exactly, through December and January. This is where it starts to get a little crazy. First, we're going to get rid of all conferences, apparently.
Not a thing.
It doesn't exist anymore. Instead, it's going to be 4 regional sort of just clusters of teams. In there, though,
you know, they have a name for those. They used to, back in the day before this conference realignment stuff. They used to call those conferences.
So, but the crazy thing for me in this,
there's going to be promotion relegation in this, which I think is a little bit rich coming from U.S. Soccer, who pushed back on promotion and relegation for so long with MLS. Yes. So for me, I think this is a lot to do with it being a World Cup year. U.S. Soccer is like, hey, we're falling a bit behind on this whole development front. Let's go to NCAA, let's go to college soccer, and let's see if we can put our hand in the cookie jar and see if we can fix that, according to them. It is a little confusing in that sense, because I'm with you where it's a little funny, because I know we're making progressions towards promotion and relegation, which I'm all for, by the way. Here in the States, we should have it in more sports so teams don't tank. That's another conversation to be had, but that's what's great about the European leagues. I know we're going to have that in a few years in USL, which is like the second and third division. You're very familiar with that. But yeah, when it comes to MLS, they're very stubborn about that, to your point. So it's interesting to me that U.S. Soccer wants to propose this where, cool, I'm all for promotion relegation and adjusting to the European calendar to get them more pro-ready, have them playing more year-round, but the MLS calendar is still completely opposite of Europe. Why isn't MLS adjusting to before we adjust college, right?
And this is the question I've been asking for quite a long time, because we got the likes of Alexi Lalas, who of course chime into the conversation. MLS is pushing to go to that August to May format, but the issue for me is that there's still too much money involved, especially with MLS. And college soccer, the U.S. soccer looks at NCAA athletics in general and is like, hey, look at how much money we could make. And that is my biggest issue, because all of a sudden, the U.S. soccer just didn't care about college soccer for so long. Now they decide that they want a little bit of a piece of the pie.
Guys, I want to jump in real quick here, because I do have a couple of questions, like legitimate questions. The first one that comes to my mind, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers as well, what do you do about like the weather aspect of this? Because the differences in climates, I mean, that is huge. If you're playing through the middle of the winter in a place like Syracuse,
there's a winter break.
I hear it, but February,
the Bundesliga.
There's still going to be snow on the ground. Well, let's hear it. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, no, I mean, right now they're starting in middle of August, where down south it's like 100 degrees.
Right. So that's equally as much a consideration.
Yeah. So in the United States, this is a big country. In case you didn't know, like there's a variety of climates. So it is tough compared to European countries where it's a similar climate year round, where you can't appease everyone. But if you have a 2-month winter break in climates like Syracuse and in the Northeast, I think you can still make this work, Nick. And the best part about it, too, in my opinion, is that the national championship would be in May. It would be in nice weather. I hate that it's in December right now, where it can be cold and,
Well, they do play it in Cary, North Carolina.
Well, no, but the quarterfinals are still home sites. I was freezing my butt off when they played Vermont.
The other thing for me that I think would really make a benefit for this is if you're playing from August until May, that gives you so many more opportunities from a marketing standpoint to play games on national television, because you don't have college football in the way, of course, which takes up all those Saturday slots. That way, if most of the games would be on the weekend at that point, that gives a lot more opportunities.
I want to jump in with one more thing real quickly. We're running out of time. There are a lot of people involved in the college soccer landscape, including, Sam, your dad, who's an official who refs these games in the ACC.
Yes.
What kind of impact would this have on work schedules? You're talking about a longer season, much more demanding.
Well, I think, it would be for sure a longer season, but for people like my dad who loves refereeing, he's a little bored sometimes in the spring. It would give more opportunities really in the spring, because you'd have more, college soccer. So it would require, more work, more of a commitment. Now, the big thing as I wrap this up, Luke, is the NCAA having to approve all of this. That's the big question mark in all of this, but it's an intriguing prospect.
It certainly is. We'll see what happens.
Well, guys, we're switching back to college football, but thank you so much, and Nick, you as well, for coming on, discussing this. Big changes coming to college athletics. It seems like every year these do not change. There's always big plays, and we've got our plays of the week and final words in just a sec.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We have covered a lot today on No Pulp. We've got football, and we've also had some soccer as well. It's been an exciting time with Sam Reis. I'm Luke Burgess, and we are wrapping things up here, starting with our plays of the week. I'll go to mine first. And an absolute swinger in one of the biggest games all week. Zabian Brown, a 99-yard pick six. Going into halftime, completely swung the momentum of this game. Tennessee was really holding tough at Bryant-Denny, and Brown said no longer. He takes it all the way back, perfectly undercuts that route, and my goodness, I mean, I really think Joey Aguilar wishes he had that throwback. That is going to be one that eats at him for a long time.
Big time. An underrated aspect of this is Zabian Brown had to get in the end zone because the clock expired.
Right.
He almost got tackled by
he gets
that
tackled
last guy.
there. That does not count, and it probably is also not the play of the week. Just
right. But he takes it 99 yards to the house. Great play of the week there.
Thank you.
Mine is fun. We're going to Tulane.
You're saying mine wasn't fun.
No, well, that was fun, but this is fun. All right, Shaz Preston. Look, he bobbles off a couple of guys. He keeps concentration and catches the football. This was to give Tulane a 7-point lead over Army with 24 seconds left. This was a circus catch and a half, but look at the concentration. He stays with it. The crowd can't believe it. I can't believe it. Tulane wins in a thriller. That's one of the more wild catches you are going to see all season long in college football.
Well, that was pretty good, Sam. And if your eyes were glued to the SEC this weekend and not Division III football, nobody would blame you. That being said, you missed what was potentially the greatest rushing performance in college football history. Monty Quinn, the running back for Curry College in Massachusetts, finished with a 71-27 win over Nichols, 522 yards on 20 carries, 7 touchdowns on the ground. In case you were wondering, that is the new NCAA rushing record for a single game. The FBS record for a single game belongs to current Bengals backup running back Samaje Perine. He had 427 yards back in 2014 with Oklahoma. The previous NCAA record was set just a year before that, when Division III Heidelberg's Cartel Brooks finished with 465 yards on the ground. Now, the craziest part is arguably not yet mentioned. He did not even play the final 2 offensive drives of the game. After he added his 17th touchdown of the season, head coach Todd Parsons decided it was time to stop running up the score and put in some of the backups. Quinn said, quote, "The O-line was dominating all game. Receivers were blocking like crazy. And coaches put us in position to make plays. This belongs to all of us. I just happened to be the one carrying the ball," end quote. Pretty humble for a guy who just played one of the greatest college football games ever. Congratulations to Monty for the unbelievable achievement, and to Curry College for rostering a guy who definitely shouldn't be in Division III.
A Curry College mention here on No Pulp makes me happy. Milton, Massachusetts, baby. But listen, exactly 5 weeks ago, I sat here on this show and ripped UCLA quarterback Nico Iamaleava to shreds. That was after the Bruins had an abysmal 0-3 start to the season and had just fired their coach, Deshaun Foster. Now, a 17-14 loss to Northwestern followed that, and at 0-4, it really felt like UCLA wouldn't win a game the rest of the year. But what the Bruins have pulled off since then is simply shocking and spectacular. 3 straight wins, all impressive in their own right. First, the upset of the year, beating Penn State, then a dominant showing against Michigan State, and this past weekend, a pretty good game-winning drive in the final minute to knock off Maryland. So despite plenty of uncertainty after Foster's firing so early in the season, UCLA has managed to completely turn things around and look like a whole different team. I think a ton of credit has to be given to the coaching staff that has been tasked with leading the way after Foster's firing. That starts with the interim head coach, Tim Skipper, who has completely changed the team's culture in a short period of time. And then there's 33-year-old Jerry Neuheisel, who has been given the reins of the offense. His play calling has freed up Nico and has led to an offensive revival. The former UCLA quarterback might be a lanky blonde youngster, but he's deservedly making national headlines for what he's done, and the guys clearly love him. Just watch the post-game videos in the locker room if you haven't already. This team is having fun and winning important football games for now, and I'm all here for it. I would have called you crazy a few weeks ago if you told me this would be my final word today on No Pulp, but that's the beauty of college football, Luke.
Thank you so much, Sam. To our producer, Connor McGahan, I'm Luke Burgess. He's Sam Reis. That's all we got tonight on No Pulp.